Hello everyone. Today I'll be providing an energy update and I'll be discussing the powerful activations that take place when we take the leaps of faith in alignment with the guidance that comes through from our higher self and guidance team, and how this is extremely powerful in activating the self and shifting into your preferred reality experience. So right now, the energy on the earth plane is fantastic. There is a peaceful calmness in the atmosphere, and this is all an indication that a lot of density has been released over the last week. There has been a big purge, and now we are enjoying the expansive state of being, and there is evidence energetically of this within the physical vessel. If you feel into the frequencies, that there is a lot of light present. We have gone through another shift within all the shifts that have taken place, and there is a lightness in the air. So the density that has been released is associated to repeated cycles and relationships with the self and others. So as you'll notice, last week, relationships and the relationship with the self, there may have been some flare-ups that have taken place, because just before the energy associated to the repeated cycles of these relationships is about to be released, when there is a shift taking place, the energy gets very loud. Just before the energy is about to leave, it gets very loud. And then we find ourselves now in this present moment in a very relaxed, calm, peaceful state of being, knowing that something very significant has been released, all part of the change within the self and the change that is and will be reflected to us in our reality experience. So moving forward, the theme with relationships and repeated cycles, information may be coming through to you in many ways. Maybe in dream state, it may be through the reality experience that plays out, maybe through a teacher online. The information may be coming through feeling alone or through downloads. Information travels through many paths on its way through to you, and it travels through the path of least resistance. The information right now for the collective that is coming through is that what we no longer prefer to experience in terms of the repeated cycles of relationships has simmered down. In essence, it will feel like what we no longer prefer to experience with regards to relationships has less power over our reality experience. It's quietening down. After getting loud and flaring up, it is now quieting down. It is always a choice whether to engage in whatever relationship we choose moving forward, but now there is a release of the threshold of the power of these relationships because of the energy that has been released associated to it. So we can still choose to partake in relationships that we know or perhaps no longer in service to us, but the pull is less. There is less of a pull associated to the repeated cycles. So the information that may be portrayed to you or has shown up in whatever way it has come through will show you the energy associated to the repeated cycles. So the repeated cycles all the way from childhood, and I've mentioned this before, a massive theme that has played out over the last few months is the victim-abuser codependency dynamic. So if you think about this topic and the relationship with yourself and with others associated to this theme, think about all the individuals that you have interacted with since childhood, and you'll notice that there will be or has been a consistent energy within that dynamic, within relationships that has been present up until this point of time. So think about the different characters of individuals. There would have been different individuals over time, but the dynamic was the same. And the dynamic may have shifted from the victim abuser to codependent within your relationships, but the energy present within these relationships has kept that dynamic going, has fueled that dynamic. And right now, as of last week, and even before that, for individuals, the energy associated, which has given this dynamic power, has been released. It is quietened down. And with the density release, thus we are embodying more light. There is more light present, and with light, there is more clarity. So there is going to be, and is now, more clarity in connection with relationships. The relationship with ourselves and others, and what we prefer to experience. So notice the characters in your life, the role that you have played, all of these characters, every single interaction set up by ourselves in the name of service. So it is going to be a lot easier with the light present, with the density, the energy released, to find forgiveness for the self and for others. So forgiveness is a theme tying into this. On a higher level, everything with clarity is perfect. From a 3D reality experience, often at times things don't look perfect and they are uncomfortable, especially when it comes to relationships. When we have been through difficult times, or we have felt like the victim, when there has been abuse, it seems like there has been an imbalance. But right now, and moving forward with that energy being released, with more clarity associated to these relationships, there is a understanding on a very deep level. With the light, there is clarity, a higher vibrational state of being. And you'll see how all of these relationships, the repeated cycles, have got you to where you are right now, and all perfectly designed to get you moving in the right direction. And it got louder and louder and louder until you have made the conscious decision to no longer interact with that cycle, with that relationship dynamic. That's all it is. The energy is the big work. So the energy has been released, and if you feel like it hasn't, it will be soon. This also ties into a belief system, what you believe. So right now, it's quietening down. And all that is required is, with free will, a conscious choice to say, I no longer prefer to engage in that dynamic, and that is it. And so ends the repeated cycle that you no longer prefer to experience. This also ties into tapping into our guidance from our higher self and guidance team. And often when leaving relationships we no longer prefer, it can seem like a leap of faith. Right now, what is happening in the world, with all the drama and all the chaos, the distractions, the disruption, it is a relationship with the world. And it got very, very loud. Just before it's about to leave, it gets very loud. So today there's a calmness in the atmosphere. And I'm not saying that there won't be other flare-ups in the world. There will be, when you're engaging in 3D consciousness, in the game of duality, there's always going to be flare-ups and things happening. But notice right now, in this now moment, how it doesn't have as much of a pull energetically on you. And feel into this frequency right now, the 5D gamma waves, the light coding, the light that is present. Knowing that this is a frequency, and this frequency is accessible at any time, and it is a choice with what we choose to align with. So there's a calmness in the atmosphere today. Everything is connected. The relationship with the self, the relationship with others, what is happening in the world, the light flooding in from the sun, which acts as a portal, what's happening energetically on the earth plane. As I've mentioned, the earth energetically responds to the light flooding the earth plane. We are working with the earth plane. We are both ascending at the same time. We are connected through the heart space to the grids. Everything is connected. And there is a lot of evidence out there supporting that we are ascending in consciousness and that Gaia is ascending. We are ascending no matter what. And the darkness, what we no longer prefer to experience, not saying that it is bad, all right? Although when engaging with something too long, okay, it does delay your progress moving forward. So it is a conscious decision with what we align with, and we direct with conscious awareness what we no longer prefer to experience, and we stay connected through the heart space, through the grids, with the sun, the star alignments. Everything that is playing out is connected, and it is quieting down now. There is a peacefulness energetically from the heart space. There is peace of mind playing out right now. So whenever this happens, okay, and if you're still going through a purge, that's fine. Soon you'll find the expansive state of being. And when you do, really feel into this energy, this amazing energy, knowing that no matter what is happening externally, it is a frequency that is available and accessible at any time. And through meditation, connecting with your breath, grounding, taking your shoes off and standing on the grass outside and connecting with the grids of the earth and Gaia, you can tune into this frequency and shift out of the uncomfortable state of being very, very quickly. So now I'd like to just discuss a little bit about, and all of this is connected, okay, how powerful it is when we trust the guidance coming through from our higher self and guides, when we take leaps of faith, especially when it makes no sense from the logical mind, from the 3D perspective. These are when some of the biggest activations on an individual level take place. When we find ourselves in a situation where information comes through, and all of us, you would have been practicing for years now, and if you haven't, well, it's great to practice it moving forward. When we are listening to the ego, when we are tuning into a fear-based scenario, when the ego flares up, or when we know it's our higher self and guides coming through. And most of this is feeling, so feeling into it, going into the heart space and feeling with intuition, okay? Then obviously with all these activations taking place, the guidance is opening up all the time with every single DNA activation. The guidance, the channels of communication, how it comes through opens up. As I've spoken about before in my previous videos, when your third eye opens, okay, when your crown opens, you will get visual information coming through. You will get, as I've spoken before, the 5D holographic guidance system coming through, where you actually see and feel your guides at the same time. And the information, the channels of communication open up and get more clearer and clearer and clearer as you go along. But at first it may just be feeling. And that's where we start. So we trust with the feeling. Your higher self and guides can see all reality experiences playing out. They can see the future. And often at times we get the nudge. We know it's our higher self and guides coming through feeling, or through the visuals, or through information in dream state, whatever way it comes through to you. And you'll be nudged. You'll never be told what to do by your higher self and guides, as you are in charge of your reality experience, although our higher self and guides know what is best for us. They can see what is coming. They know what is happening, as all reality experiences exist simultaneously, and they are guiding you in each and every moment. Your guides are always present with you on which route to take, on what they would suggest for you to do. When we trust this, because sometimes we'll be asked to take a leap of faith. I know in my experience, for a while now, many occasions, I'll get the information, I'll receive the download, the visuals, okay? But even at first, when it was just feeling, and and I've been asked to take a leap of faith without seeing anything, without seeing any other information or evidence. I've been asked to take a leap of faith and trust myself and trust my guides. And I've never been let down once, not once. When tuning in, knowing the difference between ego and higher self, when in alignment, never once has the information come through been incorrect or led me astray. And I've found that when I've done this, when I've trusted myself and the guidance coming through, and I take those leaps of faith, there are activations that are very, very powerful on an individual level that take place. The greatest activations that take place on an individual level is when we are vulnerable, when we find ourselves taking a leap of faith, putting ourselves out there in whatever way that may be for you. It may be expressing yourself publicly. It may have to do with something very personal on an individual level or with relationships. When we trust the self, even if it's uncomfortable, when we are vulnerable in those uncomfortable moments, and we take that leap of faith and we trust the self within integrity as always, those are the moments where we undergo the greatest activations. Because we are very, very vulnerable. We are letting go of what the ego is telling us in that moment, of what we have known for so long. This also ties into repeated cycles. We are moving into the new energy, vulnerability within integrity. Trust is a shift into a new energy. The new frequency is activating, and we go through individual activations. And when we do this, our higher self will always surprise us. We are rewarded beyond comprehension when we do this. Because in essence, what we're doing is trusting in a higher power. We are trusting in God. When we trust in God, when we trust the self, what we are saying to the universe is that we believe now, we trust that we are divine beings, we are sovereign, that there is a higher power, that our higher self and guides are always present, and there's a feedback system. The more we trust ourselves and our guides within integrity, the more there is a positive feedback loop, and that manifestation plays out in our reality experience, and something even better than we could have ever expected will manifest every single time. Sometimes the path will get a nudge and it will seem absolutely crazy. I know at times during my journey expressing myself publicly, I've taken leaps of faith, where there hasn't been any information besides for the guidance that came through. This is in my early days at first. And when I took those leaps of faith, absolute magic manifested in my life, and I saw miracles. And the information has never ever been incorrect. Sure, at times when I fed into ego, I am human, that does happen, but there's always a lesson in this, and that's still trusting the self. The ego is very, very necessary in navigating this experience. You wouldn't really be able to have any relationships with anybody else within a 3D, 4D space, even 5D, without the integration of the ego aspect. Because as you can see in the world right now, there is still a lot of negativity in the world right now. And if there wasn't ego involved, we would be walked all over. Just to be light and love and not saying no to things, and not using discernment with the integration of the ego aspect, that wouldn't work out very well. So the ego, is also an aspect of God. It is necessary, and it's about the integration. So finding alignment with the higher self aspect, listening to our guides, while using the ego as a very, very necessary tool, as everything works together in assisting you with your creative expression and navigating your reality experience. So sometimes, and I mentioned saying no to things. So trusting the self. Sometimes it's easier. We don't want to upset other people. We don't want to say no to things, okay? Because everyone else may be aligning with a certain narrative or doing something. And then our higher self and guides are saying, you need to think about and trust us and shift out of that old paradigm or say no to that thing. Saying no is very powerful. The warrior masculine archetype is a part of this alignment. It is a very necessary part of it. If you've heard about the 4 masculine archetypes, okay, the king, the lover, the wizard or magician, and then the warrior archetype. All of them are necessary in the journey in finding alignment. So the warrior archetype, okay, from a place of love, all right, standing in your personal power and saying no to something that insults you, saying no to something that you know is no longer in alignment or in service to your highest good is very necessary. Saying no to deception, to distractions, to false narratives, to, as I've mentioned before, the ascension delay tactics. It's okay if you choose it, all right, but right now it is a delay, okay, and your higher self may be saying to you, it's okay to say no. It's more than okay, it's powerful. By saying no to something, you are offering something different for the other individual. You are giving them another choice. By saying yes, you are inviting in the energy of the repeated cycle, the old paradigm, okay, and in that there are different experiences, but in essence there isn't a significant change for you and the other individual. Change being the ascension from 3D to 5D consciousness. So the energy is very light, very blissful, expansive states of being. And as you'll notice on this journey, with each purge stage, with each shift that takes place, with every activation, the purge stages will begin, if not already. They will become less intense. At first, I know when I went through my Kundalini awakening, as many of you would have been through or will be going through, Kundalini awakening activations. And it's a very powerful energy. At first, when I went through this activation, I went through a very, very big purge. A big dark night of the soul. Many dark nights of the soul within the dark night of the soul. As a lot of density, this powerful life force energy, the Kundalini energy, makes its way up through the chakra energy centers, through the crown, okay, and it bursts through the channel and it removes any resistance, impurities that act as resistance to connecting us to source. And the purge stages were very, very intense, and the reality shake-up externally, as you will know, we've all been through big shake-ups in our lives. The big purge stages where it seems like everything is going wrong. Okay, this is all an indication that there is a purge. There is a shake-up internally, a release of all that density, the impurities within the physical vessel to embody more light. And then we see this reflected in our reality experience. So as you'll notice moving forward, the purge stages will become fewer and farther between and less intense. Okay? And the more we practice self-love, gratitude, forgiveness, the easier the process becomes. And the fewer and farther between the purge stages, and the more extended and grander the expansive states of being in enjoying the light that is present. So it's something to look forward to. Okay, while remaining present, obviously the quickest way to get there, paradoxically, is to remain present and not to worry too much about the future and what you are doing in a year's time. By being present, that is the shift. By being present, by taking the leaps of faith, trusting the self, the higher self, your guides, practicing this communication system, through feeling. I do it every single day. I'm always working with my higher self and guides based on every decision that I make. And it's a lot of fun. And you truly know that you're never alone. And it's those leaps of faith, okay, that are extremely activating energetically. When we are vulnerable, with an integrity, when we have trusted in the self, in the channel all the way up to the Christ consciousness, we trust in God, that is when we see absolute miracles manifest in our reality experience. So that's the message for today. That's the energy update. You will notice things simmering down in terms of what we no longer prefer. The energy associated to repeated cycles within relationships, the victim abuser, codependency dynamic, the relationship with the self, self-love, that density has been released. And if you feel like it hasn't, it will be moving forward. Just trust in the higher self. And know that without that energy, there isn't a big pull anymore. That's the big theme. There isn't a big pull. It's always a choice. We can align with that thing, but the pull isn't there. So it is so much easier now. And using this as an example, so this whole year, with what has happened in your reality experience, in your life, notice where you are now compared to the end of last year. Okay? There has been a big shift that has taken place. A big timeline shift. We're in a new timeline now. A lot of individuals are on a completely new timeline. So, remembering how you manage things, what worked for you, what didn't work for you over the past year, and even before that, since the beginning of time. So when something crops up again, okay, this is when the ego comes in and when it's necessary. That's why the integration of the ego is necessary. See, when you were in the ego space, or when you're in the heart space, and when the ego served you and when it didn't serve you, and when something crops up moving forward, something not preferred, see how it played out when you managed it this way or the other way in the past. And that's why our entire reality experience since childhood is a magnificent toolkit where we are masters of our reality experience. So it's good to draw back on how things used to play out, what worked, what didn't work. And it's always about using discernment when navigating our reality experience. And through this whole process, that whole toolkit, and this present moment now, you will be able to identify without a shadow of doubt what is the higher self guidance coming through. Sometimes it's subtle, okay? And what is the ego, and which one works for you. So we are encouraged now, all right, individuals' voices are needed. I've spoken about this before in the beginning of the year, that it is time for light workers, star seeds, to express themselves. There is no rush, but it is needed for the individual expressions, okay? That frequency, that pulse that is sent out from your expression, from that embodiment, has a lot of power, okay? In the embodiment, that frequency alone, individually and collectively, where light workers, star seeds, gate workers, grid workers, ascension guides, individuals who choose to embody the light within integrity, these are the individuals that are leading the ascension. These are the individuals that are deciding where the world goes. Okay, it's not necessarily public figures, okay, in 3D reality experience who are leading the way, who may seem like are leading the way. Everything is energy. And there is great power in the collective effort for more individuals who choose to love themselves. We are the ones deciding where the world goes and where we shift to. We are providing a frequency bandwidth for others to acclimate to align with, thus shifting the world into the fifth dimension. That's the message for today. Have a fantastic week, everyone, and goodbye for now.